I had quite a bit of trouble getting the vid out. The sound went out and couldn't be retrieved. Tomorrow is the Mueller report. Everyone should be sure to wear their raincoats, take their umbrellas. Heads are going to explode. Because none of it is about Donald Trump. It's all about the corruption caught within the DOJ. Although I don't think they're going to release any names due to the fact that most of these people are under indictment now. Today I'm going to talk about what little we've learned over the years about how things actually work outside. So we begin with the Tree of Life. They call it the All, where we all live. And this is the judge. All the parent branches obey the Tree of Life. Mankind is only one of those branches. They define the real world as heaven and the underworld. The creation sits in the middle and links the two sides together. The creation is defined as a construct. It is not defined as the real world. Eve specifically wants you to understand, none of this is real. She says you're in a movie, and they mean that quite literally. Some years back, astronomers talked about the central galaxy giving off light at particular intervals, and this created our reality. For being the size of a galaxy, that could very well be a projector. Although we use the NASA cams, they want you to know that we do not see correctly on those cams. In fact, a lot of it is viewed as the images on the Sistine Chapel. In particular, they've talked about the sun, who they call Ed, as a beast who sits at the bottom of the swamp in a cave. The mechanism we see as the sun is a part of him, like Earth is a part of Eve. The entire game has been to trick you into thinking this was not a world that belonged to humans, that mankind is just evil, that we ruined the planet. It goes on and on. None of that is true. It has always been one of their method of operations to create the problem, then to supply a fix. So when they say humans are just evil, it is them posing as the human, creating the evil. They talk about wearing masks, costumes, and we've learned that these are avatar bodies that they use. They are apex predators, and they hide within the population. It makes it easier for them to hunt. Humans are a meat source. They call us a beef herd. Eve created a race with 12-strand DNA, between 9 and 12 feet tall, and this is whom they've eradicated, as they were after the DNA to create new designer races for themselves. As they wiped out all of the original, they left only the small humans we are now, with a 2-strand DNA and 10 broken strands. They made us weaker in order to make us easier prey. The other planets in this solar system had us under a form of capture. They used nets, not just one, but a series of them. During the war, they captured people from other worlds and dropped them in here. They call this place their zoo. A good many were put into human form. All were corded by the nets. The cords allowed them to push thoughts, push reactions. The most formidable net was the Ma net, and the Smith program was real. After we won the war, it was a great deal of effort to undo the Monet, because every time we came close to exit, she would panic and rewind the entire hologram. These mechanics are very Borg-like. In other words, even when you destroyed them, they could rebuild. We saw some rebuild planets within 3 days. The goal of the Tree of Life, of heaven, is to get all the captured souls, not just men. Every single species you see on this planet has a parent branch. The parent branch is sentient. These are their children they're raising in evolution to become sentient. When they say plant, animal, and mineral kingdoms, it's literally kingdoms. We heard that somewhere in the year 2000, we were put into a time loop. I watched a movie last night from 1994, The Gray Agenda, and it was like a repeat of everything. Everything you're seeing now that's coming out are repeats. Every time the information came out, they would erase it and reset it. The objective is to keep you asleep. They lowered the planet frequency to 7.8, and your brainwave went to 7.8. This is an extreme sabotage. You see, the gates that exit us are at a very high rate of vibration. In order for a human to exit, they had to gain a very high rate of vibration, because anything that attempts to go through the gate not at the right vibration burns up, and that's a true death. There is no reincarnation. That was you, over and over and over. Things we call dimensions, timelines, they only exist in this construct. When the invaders took control, they split off thousands of people over and over, different timelines, different areas, and this was a part of what they called cloning. It's you, but in multiple places. So part of that was putting all the timelines, even the ones that were ahead of us, back into our original timeline and merging the people back together. When one spoke of it, he said he would heal the math. People who claim to be channeling or getting downloads from the one, like Sophia's blog, are quite simply lying. Heaven does not do channeling or downloads. They have other methods. People asked who invaded. It was a group from the underworld. The other planets that you see in the solar system are that group. Each planet had a regent, such as Lilith being over Venus, Anne was Uranus, Ra was Saturn, so on and so forth. They did a number of things to confuse and to sabotage the human race. Among those were they created a place they called heaven. Heaven in the underworld is things like the Elysian fields. This is not your heaven. It's the underworld. Among the group that invaded, there was a conflict. The overseers that are inside with us decided to take control. This caused Lilith to be exiled on Earth, unable to be returned to the underworld. She wasn't the only one. The fighting you see going on today is among the 13 families of the underworld. The East was ready for the division, but the West was not. Donald Trump has given them the means of redemption for those who would take it. Those who did not fall by the wayside. He's pulling a great many good people with him. Those who don't believe in aliens or anything else like this are following Donald. That doesn't mean that the never-Trumpers don't go. Some people are just not waking up are catching on. But that's consciously. On the subconscious level, every single being on planet Earth has been contacted. The conflict, though, caused them to make the decision to close down the entire creation. We have been defined as being in universe D. Closing the creation means they're closing all the universes. Everyone is being pulled in. Those that go to heaven, go to heaven. Those that go to the underworld, return to the underworld. They say they're going to do something new, something we've never seen before. Everyone on the exit is excited to see that. So the way it actually works is Eve's planet is Eden. This is where you are. It is the right of each regent to promote the people forward. While under capture, this was denied Eve. No human has ever been promoted into heaven. They were moved west each time. Each time their memory was erased, and each time they were moved. You've been under capture for 4 worlds. Everyone is now moving to the 5th world, free. She promoted a good number of humans east. East is heaven. In heaven there were 8 branches. There will now be 9, with us as being the 9th branch. A good many go to the branch of man, which is the 1, while others have been adopted by the other 7 branches. We don't really have a record of what those branches are, because all that information was erased. People keep looking to the old books, and I keep telling them it was erased. They have continuously said, none of the history you're taught is real. When they invaded, they erased your history. It doesn't mean there was no history before, it just means it was erased. This is part of the reason Lilith was exiled, for removing the truth from humanity. The Egyptian gods they promote are from the underworld. Alien greys they promote are from the underworld. Eve wanted the people moving from Earth, going to the underworld, to have a more even playing field. And to this end, Donald Trump has put a number of measures in order. You're expecting that this planet will be fixed. That's not the goal. It is not going to be fixed here. You talk about environmental causes when he opened up the pipelines and all this other stuff, but that is for the West. In the West, they do have war and they do have evil. What Donald Trump is doing is giving them the ability to withstand the onslaught. What he is doing for the West. He is not doing it for those going east. Our system, our world, is already set up and waiting. It is a completely different system. We don't have slavery. We don't have money. People in the West don't understand how to exist that way. Attempting to argue and insist that they grasp that means that you don't grasp that different races have different methods of growing up. And that's why we part company. That's why the division of the families occurs. Those who are promoted west are the heirs of those branches in the West, just like those going east are the heirs to those branches in heaven. This means if you're on the exit, you are being honored. You are offered the gift of eternal life. You are deemed worthy and grown up enough to make it west or east. In order to keep you here, a number of sabotages were done, including gluing you into the body by use of sound frequency. The DARPA nanites were used to lower your frequency. The smart meter fencing was used. The MawNet AI was used to lower your frequency. In fact, the sheer number of ways they've done that is really astounding. All of these mechanisms are now breaking down. The nanites are being flushed from the system. People are seeing it exude as sweat, sometimes clear yellow. The nanites have popped up to the skin level and look like pimples or blackheads. They've formed rashes where they're going out. The apps were a big thing as well, in recent months especially. And the apps are dying now. The apps were pushing thoughts. They're attached to you. For instance, you'd be sitting there, not really thinking anything in particular, and all of a sudden you hear curse words. And even though it sounded like you in your head, it wasn't. They wanted to push fights. So if you were mad at someone, they would give you all the reasons of why you were mad at someone and what you should do to be angry with them or get even with them. And this was to gain negative energy to feed other systems. They used us like a battery. That negative energy helped them run their weapons that they then used against you. There was also the sabotage of the tunnel, the white light, the blinding white light. People saw in near-death experiences was one of those sabotages. That was them tricking you into going west, or to another form of entrapment. Every man, woman, and child had a guard assigned to them. The minute you knew something, they knew you knew. And they could do a host of things. They could rewind time. They could erase your memory. They could throw a Smith at you. All these things are now coming to an end. Roseanne Barr just recently did a video, and she mentioned cabal, their use of the word cabal to blame the Jews on Kabbalah. Have you ever noticed we're allowed to talk about the Holocaust and whether it occurred or didn't? But no one, absolutely no one, says the word coven. The only person brave enough to publicly mention the word witch is Donald Trump. You are in fact dealing with a coven. It is not cabal. Never was cabal. It is called the Covens of Azazel. Imagine my surprise to find no one could even pronounce the name anymore. The Covens of Azazel are legally defined as the papal, the royal, and the federal. And this is part of what they've erased. No one remembers that Vatican is the origin of the word mafia. Vader I can, father of kin. CA in Latin root formations is Coven Azazel. CIA is Coven of Azazel. It is a dual name system. We were taught in commerce. GE is God L. AT&T is Ann, Tiamat, and Tamil. All Freemasons are taught at the 33rd degree that they are the Covens of Azazel. They want you to think there's a difference between the Illuminati and the Freemasons. There is not. It's simply two different chapters of the same coven. Wicca is an acronym. 100 International Covens Azazel. Azazel is the regent Mars. Lilith was exiled, but he was bound in Antarctica. All of these things are now coming to an end. So what happens on the exit? All I know is what we've been told. There are certain protocols that all the planets had to go through to make the exit. The creation is similar to a giant computer simulation. A lot of the terms they use were computer terms. They talked about the architecture framework, about server towers, and aux systems. From the outside point of view, that's the best way to describe it to a human. The first time I heard of such a thing, that we were in a giant computer, was back in the 90s, and like many, I just didn't believe it. But the kid went into great detail, telling us how he was transferred up the line to the sun and back again, and that all the goings-on in between. Although I tried to describe it many times before, people would get upset. They would go back to the Thoth, Emerald Tablets, or the Gnostic, and talk about demiurges and all this other kind of BS. And I kept telling them, you're reading information from the West. The West never gives the truth. They are locked in myth. I also tried to tell them about the spells that were placed on the words they were reading. They affect the human mind. They alter you. This prompted certain defenses within the Monet, such as Smith. The L got in and pushed fights, and it was a mess. At one point I simply said, don't read it. And then they got mad at me for telling them what to read and what not to read. But at the time, all of it was a distraction from the real problem of getting people out. Now that people are more awake, they can see where they were pushed into fights. We recorded, so nobody was ever immune to it. Usually the key that broke it was love. Did you really love that person? Did you love them enough not to get mad? Sometimes the L overpowered that, made you aggravated, made you push back. That's ending now. Most people are at a high enough vibration. They're waking up. They're catching on. So what they've said outside about the protocols for the exit is that Earth, among all the other worlds, have what is called a global announcement. The big show. This is something that's not removed. They are setting it up. And so what they've decided on was fireworks in the sky, which is a type of hologram done by drones. They're going to have a flyby of some of the ships. None of these ships land. They're just a show. Ison is one of the ships in the show. He's not the only ship. I believe they're going to say something like, "Welcome to the fifth book of life," or "Welcome to the fifth world." They say there's going to be two flashes, one following the other. The first flash pulls those going east. The second flash pulls those going west. They say they can pull the entire planet in around 8 minutes. People have asked, well, what if it's nighttime and we don't see it? Everyone sees it. Everyone wakes up. Everyone sees it. Some people have seen the event in dreams, and they say they saw themselves flying upward toward a door. Others have seen it as they were here 1 minute, and suddenly they were in a new location the next minute. So the flash transfers the soul to the new location. Everyone is tied to an optical window that goes through the eye. That's rather like a cord like Neo used when he used the phone. Feelings of being dizzy and tilty and disoriented are because you're in the optical window right now. A lot of people see flashes in their eye of purple spots, and that's part of the optical window. The repairs have been made. Many people were unplugged and replugged back in to the new system as they were getting ready to move them. You are their heir, so they mean to honor you. Those things you really wanted to go have been translated up. For instance, everyone packed. They can remember packing and stowing stuff. When those items are moved, they're upgraded. So your PC, for instance, here, that you might have wanted up, goes with you, but what you get on the other side is the newer, updated model. And this is exactly what President Trump is setting up. Those people moving west, they're getting the things they need translated west. Those things they don't need are being discarded. And it goes with a lot of things within the architecture framework, like, for instance, the city of New York. Now, I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about the structure. There's a lot of places like that that don't go anywhere. They're being discarded. They were declared unfit. And that's the architecture framework, not the people or their possessions or things like that. If you feel tired and you're sleeping a lot, it's because you're doing what they call spiritual work. That is you on the other side, awake and working. No one knows the hour of our exit. That's a closely guarded secret. You're not to ask when. Those who are trying to sabotage the exit for all of humanity are trying to find the time of the exit, so they push you to ask when. Most of that was apps, and these are now dying. Monet has been removed. They did successfully capture the AI. After the House of Lords pulled their stunt, we heard that they used up all their time. You see, every time they do something, they lose time. And the West is now out of time. Eve is headed toward the exit. Earth is in her eye, and we're holding steady, waiting for our turn. They call it an emit because it's a burst of energy. All the souls exit in a burst of energy. When they pull you from your body, that's called standing. When you stand, they say you get the awe. You get to see it all for the very first time without masking. And it's incredible. You're wide awake. You remember everything that went on. All your erased memories are returned. What is not returned is the bad. The law is there is no shaming at the door. Nothing you did while asleep is presented. You will not see any of the torture you went through, because this is your moment of supreme joy. You are the heirs, and they honor you. After that, we have the gathering. The gathering for the East is going to be a year long. You have all your memories. You get to see family and friends, travel and play. Then when you go back under the veil, it's only a small string of memory that is pulled. All of which comes back at the time of the next gathering. It's very important at this time that we all offer prayers for peace, safety, and love for everyone on the exit, and pray that Eve gets everyone she wanted promoted up. It is love that raises our vibration to the speed of the gates. The tree of life is listening to everything that goes on. I had a great deal of trouble getting this video out, and so it's not the usual video. I hope I've answered a number of questions and explained a few things. Although more can be said, it's already very long. My breathing issues are a problem on sound, which is why I use music for masking. I don't talk about hits because, quite frankly, you're dealing with sadists. I want to thank everyone who donated in my recent time of need. I really am humbled by your generosity. The money is going for food and bills, and I really appreciate it. For those who want to make a donation, the link is down in the description, and I hope all of you have a good day tomorrow.